What's on, where and when.
It's the Talk of Nelson.
Talk Nelson Radio.
Welcome to Football Focus episode 6, where we cover all things football on the top of the South. I'm Chris Butler, and welcome back to my co-host Paul Brydon. Welcome back, Bridie.
G'day, Chris. How are you?
Very well, mate. Very well. And a very special guest is John Slotsy, Slotmaker. And amongst a stellar football career, is also the current coach of the Richmond Women's Premier team, the Hothouse Creative Richmond Foxes. Great to have you here, Slotsy.
Oh, it's good to be here. Thanks for inviting me in.
On this week's show, we're going to be talking senior men's and women's local premiership, Southern League men's and women's, overseas news, New Zealand football news, and of course, the FIFA Women's World Cup. But before we do that, some very sad news this morning, Bridie.
Yeah, well, I got a text from my brother John and saying that ex-Nelson United player, ex-Nelson Suburbs player, Eric Brown had passed away, and I think his age was 65, 66, and had a heart attack, unfortunately, early this morning. So Russell Aubrey was going around spreading all the news and telling all the people that but Eric Brown was, I thought, a very underrated player. Slotsy would know, he could comment in a minute about him because he was part of the 1977 Chatem Cup side. Real hard man, English lad, came out with his family when he was 15, went to Nayland College, was an electrician, had his own business, lovely family, head of the wife, kids, and a real underrated player. They used to play with Eric James, didn't they?
Yeah, Brownie was the only non-playing member of the 77 Cup side. He didn't get on the field, but he was very much part of that side. He was there to keep all the other players honest because he was always pushing everyone along, looking for a place in the side.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, well, I played against Brownie in his later years, and Russell, and I think it was in Biggsy's team. Yeah, and so generally, where did he play? Was he normally up front midfield?
Well, he's a striker, but he was he got a mobile, so he's very similar to Eric James, but I thought he had a bit more skill than Jamesy. He didn't score a lot. He didn't score a lot of goals like for Central League or National League, but I think Central League 2 with Suburbs was probably more of his forte. He
was similar build to Jamesy.
Yeah.
But I think you're right, Bridie. Technically, he's probably a better player.
Yeah,
and he understood the game a lot better.
Yeah. Very hard. I remember he broke someone's leg. Can you remember that?
No.
Yeah, he broke someone's leg. I think it might have been at the Basin Reserve, but Waltz or someone will enlighten me that. And because he was hard, he had legs like tree stumps. But very sad news. And especially at mid-60s, it's pretty young these days.
Yeah. And
condolences go out to the family and friends of Eric Brown.
Absolutely.
Great Crystal Palace fan.
Tell me about some of the teams you'd play for. So obviously Nelson United National League, but do you play Suburbs as well from memory?
Yeah, well, I think because he went to Nayland College, I think he was at Suburbs first one. And when they used to play in the old Central League 2, he played with Peter Hampson and those guys, Slotsy, didn't he?
He definitely played in that side, but I think he was at Nelson United prior to that.
Oh, was he?
I think he played in the youth side at Nelson United before going to Suburbs.
Yeah.
So
but apart from that, just basically those two clubs. But as I said, I think the family arrived here when he was 15.
Yeah, so, right. Well, very sad news, and heart goes out to all the family, and cheers to Brownie. I'm sure there'll be a few getting together and talking about some fond memories. All right, well, look, let's get into football, which I'm sure Brownie loved over the years. So Nelson Pine Senior Women's Premiership, and this is your backyard, Slotsy. But the only result that from last week that I could see on the draw isn't always right, so I've been caught on this, but Hothouse Creative Richmond Foxes 9-1 over the Golden Bay Shield Maidens. So that was last week's.
That was a catch-up game that we organised because it was a cup round.
Yes.
We were out of the cup, so we decided to play this game against Golden Bay. They came over because it was a holiday weekend. They came over. They had a bare 11 players, and they were a very young side. It's hard hanging on to players in the Golden Bay.
Yes,
a lot of them leave the Bay, go off to uni or other things. So they're always a very young side. They gave us a good run for the first half. It was only 1-0 at half time. And then they lost a couple of players through injury. And we sort of run away with it in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, they've had a few good results recently, Golden Bay, but Richmond Foxes, their form carries on. The Nelson Wahine versus Nelson Suburbs reserves this weekend. Bridie?
That's going to be a difficult game for the Wahine, but I think Sasha's got good numbers this week, so they're full strength. But she asked me the other day, actually, how do we combat against the side? I said, well, you've got a big advantage playing at the Botanics that the pitch is small for a start. So go from there. You know, I didn't say park the bus, but if you set up accordingly, play a 4-3-3, when not in position, drop those wingers back to play a 4-5-1, set up a screen and see if they can get through you, because it is a very small pitch. And then just fight and just, hustle and bustle and have your quickest one up front. So when you do get in possession, look forward and get that person to chase it, and then up you go. But it's difficult.
Got to defend well, and you've got to have someone up front that can hurt the opposition. Even if you get one chance in the game and you can put that away, well, gives you a fighting chance. But difficult.
Okay, so you're picking the Wahine? I suppose you better.
No. I picked Suburbs Women's really well. I'm being honest. I'm just
going to be in trouble tonight. Nelson Suburbs FC Swans versus Mapua Cougars. So that is at Saxton. What do you think, Slotsy?
That could go either way. Mapua Cougars, not a bad side, mid-table, a lot of fight in them. Depends what side the Swans put out and what sort of frame of mind they're in. It could go either way, but maybe I think the Cougars will edge it.
Okay, there you go. Yours is next, Bridie. The Foxes versus Spring and Fern Tahuna.
Well, the Foxes will win that. The coach is right there. I can't.
Well, how will they win that?
Yeah. Look, I think you just got too many better players, end of the day.
Well, the thing is, one of our key players, Michaela, her mum and her sister both play for Tahuna. So how we're going to handle that, I'm not quite sure. I think she could be playing up front and on one touch.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we're picking the Foxes there. The Motueka Angels versus Nelson Diamonds. Well, no, so that's you. That's
the Diamonds will win that. Bottom of the league.
Right.
And Diamonds are a good side.
Yes.
Yeah, they gave us a good run for their money. So I would pick the Diamonds to win that.
So just on the league, Slotsy, are you happy with the concept this year? Because I know a lot of teams wanted to have, like SARS particularly said, look, we didn't really want to be up against these good sides and get turned over. But I think, as I said before, the teams like the Wahine playing against the Foxes brings the best out of them. And the only way you're going to get better is playing against better players.
There's no easy answer there.
No.
There's probably only 3 really competitive sides in the first division. That's the Diamonds, us, and Suburbs. We're on a par. All the other teams are probably a step down. So there's no real easy answer there. You want a strong first division if you can. When I first started with the girls, there was a 6-team first division and then a second division. And the 6 teams were reasonably strong. We were probably one of the weakest sides in that league because we were a second-string Richmond side. The Richmond Swans were one of the top sides. But over the years, things have changed. Suburbs have now got a side in the mainland league that's taken a few players out of the mix. Blenheim are no longer in the league. They're in a rebuilding phase. They were quite competitive for a few years. So there's no easy answer. It is what it is.
It is,
I think we've just got to stick with it.
Yeah, it's hard each season because you don't really know who's going to turn up or what the makeup of teams are going to be. So you always sort of got to try and adapt and evolve each season, don't you?
Yeah, look, I think a lot of the teams need help in coaching and retaining their players. And I think we can make special rules for the women's first division, the free movement of players between the two FC sides and the two Suburbs sides. it would not bother me one little bit. We've even had situations where teams have asked to play a boy in goal. Well,
yeah, right.
I've got no problem with that either. I think we do whatever works for us.
Yeah, sure. Okay, Hothouse Creative Richmond Foxes at the top, just 2 points, so it's pretty close with Get Cars FC Nelson Diamonds and the Nelson Suburbs FC Women's Reserves doing quite well as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes.
That last weekend's game isn't on there, so we're actually 5 points.
Oh, you are? Oh, okay. So that's not part of that
and
standing. There you go.
He's right up with the stats.
The sharp eyes.
He knows
the
what's
sharp
going
eyes
on.
are onto it. Okay.
Fair enough too.
It's either my cut and pasting or it's the draw. So
well, it's a bit of both, I think. So.
Okay, let's look at senior men's Premiership division and a couple of Price Charity Cup results last week. Rangers beating Garden Motel Motueka 5-1, so fairly convincing on their home turf, and Spriggan Fern Tahuna 0-0. So someone did pick a draw with Richmond, didn't they?
No, it was 2-0 to Richmond.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Richmond won 2-0.
That's
and I believe Richmond had a player sent off after 2 minutes, so they played basically the whole sort of 80 odd minutes.
So on the website it's showing 0-0.
Yeah, that means
it went to penalties, but it wasn't.
That means she hasn't got the result.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Right.
Well, they haven't got the result.
Yeah. Okay, so 2-0 to Fresh Choice Richmond. So they'll be pleased after going down 10-0 to Tahuna earlier in the season.
Well, sometimes that can happen to you, can't it?
Yeah.
Everything the opposition does goes in, everything you do fails.
Yeah, that's it.
And you just have to mark it off as one of those things and move on.
One of those days.
They did move on.
One of those days.
Yeah, one of those days. We've all had them.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the draw for this weekend. Richmond versus Nelson Suburbs Reserves. Bridie, what are your thoughts about that one?
Well, it's Jubilee Park. Well, Richmond have sort of improved, to be honest. Suburbs Reserves, we had a friendly against them on Friday. We actually beat them 6-4 with basically my kids and a couple of older lads like TJ and Maney. So, probably a draw there if I had to be honest. I think the Suburbs kids are quite good, but Richmond have improved, and that win last week would have given them confidence. And of course, they did well against us a few weeks ago, and probably a wee bit unlucky that they didn't get something out of that game. Well, we got a penalty in the last minute, but they have improved, and so yeah.
So, do I read this right that the next one, Rangers versus Garden Motel Motueka, they have to go back over there?
Yeah, well, that's what we were asking. I thought they might do a double header last weekend, but TJ spoke to Clint Bloomfield and he said, no, the boys want to do 2 trips.
Okay.
They were apparently a bit short for last weekend's cup game, but apparently this week they're a bit stronger, so a difficult game for them over there, though.
What do you think, Slotsy?
Well, look, I'm no fan of playing double headers, double points for one game. I think you should play both games. The Richmond results over the past couple of weeks have probably shown you that things can change from week to week. So, yeah.
Yeah, give them another crack.
Yeah.
All right, but are you favouring anyone for that game?
Well, look, to be honest, I haven't seen a lot of senior football because we generally play at the same time. I have seen a couple of games this year because we're playing at 1 o'clock. Saw Bridie's game against Richmond last couple of weeks ago, but I've got no idea who's going to win it.
We'll probably have to go for Rangers at home again.
Yeah.
Nelson Suburbs Seals taking on yourself, Bridie, and he can't pick this one because he's the coach. So I'll give that to you, Slotsy. I know you haven't seen them, but you've seen a bit of
I've seen Bridie's side. I thought they played quite well. Good side. They need to score goals there, and I think you should win that, Bridie, shouldn't you?
Well, as you say, it depends who turns up for the Seals this week.
Is Ben Wright going to be up front?
Ben Wright's there. It's a completely different game, but we're looking good for numbers wise. We've got Cunny he's back. Toto's fit again. Billy Scott's available this week. College boys have been in Wellington all week, so they might be a bit tired. But yeah, look, it won't be easy. I know Danny Walsh would love to turn us over.
yes.
Yeah. So yeah, and if we're playing on the number 1 pitch at Saxon's, I'd fancy his chances. But on number 2, the grass is a bit long. You never know.
Rightio. Okay, and Spriggan Fern Tahuna taking on Nelson Locomotive. So, what are your thoughts?
Locos have been huffing and puffing, but haven't got. They've got no go. No, they have no points on the board. Tahuna lost last week. You'd have to fancy Tahuna, but the Locos boys, they're hanging in there. They got some good players: Crosball, Davey Ball, Jono Ball. They've got the players there. They just don't seem to be getting the results. Very unlucky against us. 1-0 up, and after 2 minutes, Sean Parks scored, and then we scored 2 in the last minute. So, but I would say you'd have to fancy Tahuna at home.
Tahuna at home. And the table looking, FC Nelson at the top, 3 points. So Rangers just behind, and then the reserves a little bit behind. So it's going to be that game at the end of the season by the looks, unless there's some upsets in the meantime. So
well, it could go down to the wire. We've both got 4 games. We've got 3 at home and 1 away. They've got 1 at home and 3 away. And so they've got to go to Tahuna and I think Suburbs Development. So they've got a tough draw. But yeah, they're not a bad side. You know, Rangers are, good side. Yeah, they're always hard to beat over there.
Yeah,
you're in the box seat though. You're on top. You know what you have to do to win them.
Yeah, exactly. And then if we can win the league, we're looking at playoffs for the.
What is the playoff for?
So if we do win the league, the club has decided that we will go for playoffs. So TJ was in correspondence with the guy at Mainland, and it's a funny setup because of course. It's a South Island league, so Dunedin's involved. So apparently we have to play the winner of the local league in Christchurch, which is currently Universities, home and away. And the winner of that plays the winner of the Dunedin local league, which I think is Rosna Wakari or Wanaka.
Oh, wow. So you've got a tougher...
Yeah, I don't know why they get... personally, my idea would be if there's the Dunedin winner, Christchurch winner, Nelson winner, just goes to Christchurch and plays 2 games over 1 weekend, but I don't know.
Well,
but that could change.
They're making it as difficult as they possibly can for you.
Yeah, and it is. Yeah, they probably will be. But look, at least if boys get a couple extra games, and that's what it's all about. And
at a pretty good level, so they get a taste of
it. And you never know. If we had Neil and Skippy on last week, we did discuss about if we had 2 teams in the South Island League, and they basically said, well, the standard could drop. We don't have the players, but it's up to us to make players better and more competitive. And you don't know who you're going to get back.
I always thought that 2 Nelson teams in the old Mainland League was a goer because you had 7 teams from Christchurch, 1 from Nelson, and a second team would benefit both Suburbs and the local competition.
Well, we used to Nelson United and Suburb Central League. We ran two teams, and the advantage is that at least in those days you could have loan players. At least Nelson United could get a player from another club. The difficulty now is that loan scenario or that transfer scenario. But we used to run it that way. Granted, you had to bring in some players. There's no doubt about that.
Well, the Mainland, they had Richmond run at one stage with Whitley's money and Suburbs. So, but okay, there was money around then with Whitley, but then it dried up and it just didn't happen after that. But it'd be great to have that opportunity. Yeah, and just to see, because there is some good players around, and and the other thing too, which benefits Suburbs, is 1 less game you have to travel for.
Yeah.
And as Neil said last week, the travel cost is equal these days.
Yeah.
So
once you get in there, the cost of travel is not an inhibiting factor.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So not like the old days, somewhere to raise everything. The old bingos and.
Bingo,
the wheelbarrow raffles
every night of the week, and chook raffles.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
All right, we'll talk about those days soon. Southern League Women, and it's Universities of Canterbury taking on Nelson at English Park. Nelson going down to Otago University 1-0, so they would probably be fairly disappointed about that. I don't know about the game, but
no, I didn't.
Geezer probably would have targeted that one as potentially one that he could have picked up.
Well, from what I heard, they probably deserve something out of it. So, but I didn't actually see it because we were playing at the same time, unfortunately.
Yeah. But Universities of Canterbury at the bottom of the table, so this might be another target that he's looking for at the moment. So good luck to them at English Park. We've got Kashmir Technical taking on Dunedin City Royals, and in actual fact, Kashmir Tech drew with Coastal Spirit. So Coastal Spirit seems to be improving there.
Well, Coastal Spirit are a good side.
Yeah.
I mean, them and Cash Tech, they're as good, if not better, than Cash Tech. I mean, the table may not say that, but their setup is equal to Cash Tech, so that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, right. Oh,
have they got a good setup now? Have they? Because they used to be at Linwood Rugby Club.
I'm not sure where they are, Brody, but I mean, a couple of years ago we played Coastal Spirit in the Kate Shepherd Cup.
Oh, yeah.
And they were knocking out Cash Tech to get to that stage. So, and Suburbs played Coastal Spirit this year, did they?
Yeah, 6-0.
I think 6-0.
Went down 6-0. Yeah, so they're a strong side.
Yeah, they're a good side. So I think their league position is not a true reflection on where they're at.
Yeah. Otago University taking on Coastal Spirit, and Otago obviously having the win, but you'd have to say, as we pointed out, Coastal Spirit be too strong there. So Cashmere Tech, Dunedin City Royals, and Otago University after that win sitting there, but not far behind Coastal Spirit. And Nelson will be eager to get their first win. Southern League men and Selwyn United taking on FC 20. So Selwyn going down to Christchurch United 6-0 and FC 20 2-0 to Nomads. So Cowie won't be too happy. Oh, no, he's Ferrymead, isn't he?
He's Ferrymead based, but you'd fancy Selwyn.
Yeah.
Selwyn to beat FC 20. I think Neil and Skippy said FC 20 are a bit poor.
Yeah.
Selwyn a bit better. And is it Selwyn? Yeah, they've got their own turf pitch out there, so
yeah, they'll be both looking for a win there. Dunedin City Royals and Christchurch United. Well, that'd be a good match because even though Christchurch United are well ahead on the table, Dunedin City Royals have picked up some results lately. So they're looking pretty good, but you'd have to favour the...
Yeah, look, this is really competitive, isn't it? I mean, there's two teams from there that push on to National League. So, yeah, and Dunedin have sort of pulled their resources a little bit behind the Royals. So, yeah, I expect them to push.
Yeah.
They'll want one of those two spots.
Well, they're not a bad side, Dunedin City. They drew 3-3 here with Suburbs, and they're one of the better sides I watched. And as Slotsy said, there's only two teams in that league from Dunedin, which is what's Dunedin, 100,000 people. So they've obviously pulled a few players in there, and they're up there. But Christchurch United is a lot of depth. Paul Eiffel side. They just got cover on the bench, big squad.
Yeah,
and that does help at this level.
Nomads taking on Cashmere Tech, and Nomads picking up a win, and Cashmere Tech just getting going down actually to Coastal Spirit. Have I got that right? Yes, 3-2. So good win by Coastal Spirit.
Yeah. What game's that?
Nomads versus Cashmere. So you'd have to favour.
Well, yeah, Cashmere Tech. It's at Tulloch Park, which is probably one of the few parks they play on there. It's got grass. I remember doing my coaching.
Real grass, Paul. Real grass.
Yeah, it's a big pitch, but I'd fancy Tech there.
Nelson Bays, they'll be disappointed because they were talking last week about, that if all goes well, they'll get the win. But yeah, they're taking on Ferrymead Bays. Well, Nelson Suburbs going down 5-4 to Green Island. And then Ferrymead Bays 4-1 over Dunedin City. So Ferrymead will be buoyed by that win. Nelson Suburbs will be pretty brassed off, I'd imagine. I don't know anything about the game.
Yeah, I got there because we had a game. I got there at half time and it was 2-1 to Suburbs. Big crowd. It was great, Matariki Day holiday, and the girls played before them. Really good crowd at Saxton's.
Great.
And the weather was good. Suburbs 2-1 up. They scored 10-15 in the second half. The English led up front, got a nice, just soft goal. 3-1 up, really, you'd go on to win that. But Green Island, just somewhat against the run of play, managed to pinch one back. Yeah. And you could just see them lift. And then they got a couple of goals from set piece where I think Suburbs were just switched off a wee bit. Lacked a wee bit of height at the back, maybe. A couple of good headers. And then this lad left-footed goal. And then all of a sudden it was 5-3 to Green Island. And I just thought the game. But Suburbs did pull one back. But looking at the game, Suburbs had probably most of the ball.
Right.
And it was one of those days.
Yeah.
That was one of those
well,
days.
you look at their last 3 games. They've scored 11 goals and conceded 13 and have 1 point.
Yeah, exactly. Defensively.
You know, from potentially winning positions, they're losing games, and that would be a worry for the coaches.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, they've definitely said that, you know, they've been close. They've been proud of the effort of the boys, but they've come up short, and, you know, they've lost some points and hasn't really gone their way. But I guess, you know, you learn each season, don't you? And in the off season, that's when you start saying, what do we need to do?
Trouble is when you concede goals, everyone looks at the defence.
Yeah.
But it's not, sometimes it's not the defence. There's people in front of them. There's people in front. You defend from the front. So for them to get that ball or get that overlap or whatever, they've got to get there somewhere. So working off the ball, everyone's got to be working for each other, hunting packs, hunting 2s and 3s. And but I know Skippy was disappointed to lose that game because they lost 5-4 to Tech.
Yes.
Down in Cross after being 4-1 up as well.
Yeah.
So it's happened twice now. But against a team like Green Island, who you're expected to beat, they weren't flash, but they worked hard. They got a snuff, took their chances.
So 12 o'clock, that's Sunday, is that right? Have I got that right? 12 o'clock Sunday at Saxon Field. Get out there,
tough game,
and support the boys taking on Ferrymead Bay. So might catch up with Cuzzy, is that right?
Well, he'll be there probably. Coey, he plays in golf with Ferrymead, coached by Alan Walker, quite a good coach. They're doing all right. They've sort of got 4th on the table, so they want to stay there. So it won't be easy for Suburbs.
No,
they've had some good results lately too.
Yeah. Oh, I fancy Suburbs. I think they've got better players, but end of the day, it's what you do on the pitch, isn't it? Collectively and individually.
Coastal Spirit having a good win against Kashmir Tech. They'd be buoyed by that, taking on Green Island, who had that good win against Suburbs. So, that'll be a tough game too. English Park again.
Yeah, Spirit.
The Spirit, too strong.
Yeah.
You get on that turf, English Park, it's a difficult. If you're used to playing on grass.
Oh, come on.
Well, it is. I never liked going down there.
Should be played on grass wherever possible.
Exactly.
Artificial turf is a great training tool, you know, so you can train all through winter. But if you've got a good grass pitch, you should be playing on it, in my opinion.
They talk about the lift of the ball.
Saxons and Trafalgar Park, what's good around here? Guppy's not bad lately because no one's used it for 2 or 3 weeks, but generally.
Yeah, and the other thing.
The rugby fields are in better nick than the soccer field, Slotsy. It does my head in.
You know what? Also, Paul, we're playing catch-up games midweek on what are essentially training pitches that have already been hammered by every senior side in the club. And then we're playing catch-up games on them. They're at middle of winter in a terrible state.
Yeah. No, you're right. But I just feel that we don't get the rub of the green when it comes to preparation on grounds through NELMAC and the council. That's just my opinion. It just seems to.
Well, you know, when I played, it was mainly Mike Ansell that was doing all the lines and mowing the lawns. It was the clubs that basically.
Well, last week we played Suburbs Development of Friendly. Nick Van Hatten was out there mowing the pitch with his own motor mower. That's how keen he was. That's dedication.
Yeah. Well, maybe we have to,
because the council hadn't cut it.
Or maybe we have to go back to those days.
Well, why not?
Yeah,
exactly.
Why shouldn't an old retired guy from the club be able to go down there, hop on the mower and mow the grass?
Yeah.
Things have moved on and everything's contracted out and no one else is allowed to do anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Christchurch United, Kashmir Tech and Dunedin City Royals leading the way on that one. Overseas news and, the transfer windows. And, look, I don't know much about these, but Liverpool has agreed a deal in principle worth 12 million plus add-ons to sell midfielder Jordan Henderson to basically Steve Gerrard's club in Saudi Arabia. So there you go.
Oh, it's just
they're coming in and cleaning up.
Big worry for the English Premier League, the Saudis buying players that are not at retirement age. They've still got years ahead of them playing at the top level, but because the money's so astronomical, they can't say no. But you've got to ask yourself, of players, how much money do you need? You know, when you're on £200,000 a week.
Well, Henderson's on £600,000 a week. That's the Saudi club.
Yeah.
It's a ridiculous amount of money. Firmino's gone there.
Yeah.
Conte's gone there.
Mahrez
Benzema's gone there.
is going.
Yeah, there's heaps going from England. Every week they seem to be going. Coaches are going there. Gerrard's out there.
Well, a few years ago it was China, wasn't it? And now it's Saudi. It's not good for the game.
No, it's not good.
Manchester City have agreed £30 million for Saudi Pro League side Al Ali to sign Algerian winger Rahid Mahrez.
Yeah.
So Mahrez is,
He's a great player.
Yes.
Very good.
Love
player.
watching him. Crazy.
Yeah, gone. And warm-up, Manchester got a win against Leon. Donny van de Beek still doesn't really know what's happening with his future at Man U.
Well, I see Harry Maguire's they've taken the captaincy off him.
Yes. So now,
no surprise there.
Wasn't there a bid for Harry Maguire? Was that West Ham? They were after Maguire.
Oh, really? Hello.
Who knows?
No.
I mean, sometimes I wonder why players want to go to such a huge club when they're already at a good club and they're playing every week, and then be under immense pressure to play for Manchester United or Man City or Chelsea or, they've got massive squads.
Yeah. So, if you...
Do you want to play?
If money wasn't in the framework, exactly what you just said, you'd be wanting, if you wanted to play Premier Division and it was going to struggle to make the first team in a big club, you would go off to another club, wouldn't you? But at some point, this is what we talked about last week with Mitrovic, is you're going to go to a Saudi Arabian league to play that league instead of being probably one of the lead scorers in the Premier Division.
You can't tell
the only
me,
decision is money. That's the only thing that it comes down to.
You can't tell me these guys are going to, well, they probably will improve the league, but are they going to give their heart and soul? You're playing for Liverpool, you're playing for Man United, you give your heart and soul. I don't think these players...
You have to, then. There's so much...
They're not going to give their heart and soul for Ali, even though they're getting paid triple the money. I'm telling you. It's a rort, and Slotsy's right. Premier League need to do something about it, or it's going to decimate. But Bay League, it gives other opportunities for players. There's players galore in England.
Well, at some point also... with TV rights, where's the top of the mountain? I mean, at some point, you're not going to be able to afford to cover football or pay the wages. People are going to have to take a hit sooner or later. I know we're talking about the Melbourne Commonwealth Games and they're saying, well, it blew out. Well, there's something going on there that doesn't really add up. But I did, when I first hear the news, think, at what point do costs keep going up where you say as a city, there's no way we can afford this. This is crazy, And
then Melbourne wouldn't have to build that many stadiums anyway because they've got so many.
That's right. But they wanted to have it in the regions and they reckon it was political. But in saying that, I still think that these events are getting and these leagues are getting more expensive and people are getting paid more money. At some point, it's got to tip over, commercially. And so that's when perhaps you'll start seeing players having to scramble around looking for clubs that even will be willing to pay them at some point.
Yeah,
anyway, interesting. New Zealand football, just quickly, the men's under-17 team will continue their preparation in November for the FIFA Under-17 World Cup 2023. 2 international friendlies against New Caledonia in Auckland this August. So at least they're getting a bit of a run on the park, but they'll be looking forward to the World Cup. But the big one today, FIFA Women's World Cup, New Zealand taking on Norway. Big occasion. Pity about a bit of an incident today. That was terrible. So not a good look. But I guess in any city around the world, you're going to get those dangers.
Soldier on.
Just got to keep on going.
Yeah.
But first of all, Slotsy, your thoughts on the Women's World Cup and also New Zealand's chances?
New Zealand haven't done that well over the last 12 months. I think they'll be up against it. Norway could be one of the favourites. Or they'll be up there, along with the USA, Netherlands, England.
China?
I don't think China so much. No, I don't. Watched them play not long ago. Wasn't that impressed by them.
Australia,
yep. Outside chance. Sam Kerr's an absolutely fantastic player, probably the best women's player in the world, I think, at the moment. They've got a chance.
Norway, I see the last World Cup, they made the quarterfinals, got knocked out by England, ranked 12th in the world. Have they got their Ballon d'Or player or something? They got some superstar that plays them. I was listening to the radio this morning, and they're pretty well organised. And but New Zealand have beaten them before, apparently, but that was way back in the 80s, according to Michelle Cox.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they got to get that mojo.
But look,
the 80s.
there's 40,000 at Eden Park.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic.
What a wonderful occasion. We've got training tonight. I said to the boys, look, I'd like to go home and watch that, but we might miss.
Train.
We are training. We will train for an hour and a half, and then we'll get home. Well, 7:30. But yeah, I'd like to go home and watch it. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for these girls. Unbelievable experience for them.
Yeah,
and they're expecting 40,000.
Well, they were
amazing.
Saying they interviewed the CEO of Australia and New Zealand FIFA World Cup, and he said, we're actually pretty happy because, yes, it was only 30% at the beginning. And then he said, and then it shows that we're late, so we get about another 30% sort of in the build-up. And then last minute, we get about 40% of our sales. We're knocking on the door of 300,000 sales in New Zealand. The Rugby World Cup, Women's World Cup, was deemed a success. They sold 100,000. So it just shows the spread of the game.
Well, that's the Rugby World Cup is nothing compared to this. There's 180 FIFA registered women's teams in the world. 180.
So you're going to get interest, aren't you?
It's a global game.
One of the big games, I think, will be USA versus the Netherlands and Wellington.
Yeah,
they think there'll be 40,000 Americans in Wellington.
Wow,
that weekend.
Yeah. And you can't only holds 30,000. That's a lot of Nelson people are going up. That's on Wednesday, I think. So New Zealand play Philippines on the Tuesday, and then that Dutch Holland USA on the Wednesday.
Yeah. Well, fantastic.
And the other game tonight's Australia versus Republic of Ireland.
Yes,
I don't know. That'll be sold out.
Yeah,
bound to be.
Yeah,
Aussies love their sport.
No, I think they said this morning it was.
Yeah. Obviously, they aren't too keen on Commonwealth Games in Melbourne, but they still love their sport.
Yeah, they do. And, the Aussies will be really geared up for this, so you just never know, do you?
No.
Okay, well, we'll talk results next week and also upcoming draws. A quick shout-out to Nelson College because they had some games, Paul, is that right?
Yeah, they went to Wellington on Sunday. They played 4 games. Rob Anderson took the boys up there. We've got 7 or 8 that play for me. They're in the squad, and there's a few Suburbs boys. They're quite a good side. They played Rongotai on Monday, drew 1-1, should have won. Beat Scots College 3-1. Beat North Wellington under-19s 4-2, Darville's team. And then they played Onslow College yesterday morning and drew 1-1 as well. So unbeaten. So, well done to them.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
You're with Football Focus, and our very special guest is John Slotmaker, who is currently the coach of the Hothouse Creative Richmond Foxes, but has also had a pretty extensive playing and coaching career. Welcome, Slotsy. It's great to have you here, mate.
Thank you.
And first of all, let's go way back. Where did it all start from you?
Victory Square.
Was it another Victory Square, man?
The Struggle Street Stadium. Yeah. I don't know why I was so keen on football. It wasn't through my family. My dad played a little bit for one of the old teams called Settlers in goal a little bit, but he was just a social player, really. So I used to spend a lot of time with my granddad when I was a kid. I remember sitting on Sunday morning listening to a crackly radio, and he did the pools. And
yes.
They would read out the whole list of every English game and every Scottish game. And I think somehow I got infected there. And one day, someone at school said, football sign-on down at Victory Square at 4:00. So I headed on down there and signed myself up, went home and told my mum. So that's where it all started. I signed on for a team called Nelson Athletic.
Oh, yes.
Geez, what year was that?
Paul.
60s, late 60s?
Paul. Stop it. Yeah. I don't know. Way back in...
Nelson Athletic.
Nelson Athletic, I think they had one senior team and a couple of junior teams.
Yeah.
And I I mean, I was very young. I was at school, so I was probably 6 or 7. We went straight into playing 11-a-side. Following year, Richmond, they merged with Richmond. That's how right. Richmond became known as Richmond Athletic. Nelson Athletic amalgamated with them. So then I moved on to Nelson Rangers, who were also based at Victory Square. Had a couple of years with them. I was the youngest in the team, so they bullied me into being goalkeeper. And after a couple of seasons of that, because I was a little lad, I didn't start growing till I was 15. They put me in goal, and I hardly ever got much action, so I tossed them aside and went to Nelson Thistle, who then morphed into Nelson United. Right. Nelson Rangers amalgamated with Nelson Thistle, they were the 2 top teams in Nelson at that time. And formed Nelson United. So I was a Nelson United man from there on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I remember because when there was talk about the amalgamation with FC Nelson, merging with clubs, Metro, Nelson United, obviously there were some that wanted to carry on as they were. And Biggsy said, well, you've got to remember that it was Rangers and Thistle that merged to form United. So, it does happen.
Well, and 2 of the strongest clubs in Nelson. Why would you merge 2 of the strongest clubs? Well, it was a long-term plan by Ralph Clark, Bill Waldron and Bill Wyatt to take the team as far as they could.
And it paid off.
And they entered into 3rd Division Central League, worked their way up all the leagues, all the way to National League and winning a Chatham Cup. So you've got to take your hats off to those guys.
So pretty much you were on that journey, Slotsy. You were...
Yeah.
The
first game I ever played for the senior side was under a coach called Tony Evans. Do you remember Tony Evans?
Yes.
I was playing local league, and obviously they were very short. So they needed a couple of young lads to, bolster their side. Took me to Wellington, played on the Basin Reserve number 2, hid me out on the right wing. Thought I'd do least damage out there. Funny thing is I scored.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Diving header.
Oh, wow.
About a foot off the ground, but looped over the goalkeeper.
What league was that?
It must have been 1st Division Central League.
Okay, yeah.
Because it was only a year or 2 till Fallon arrived, so we must have been already in.
Well, Tony Evans, English.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a good player. He played centre half, didn't he?
Yeah, well, or right or left fullback. He was a nuggety guy.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so that then obviously...
Yeah, no, well, I was back in the stiffs the following week, because obviously the senior players were back. And then I didn't really get back in the side until Fallon arrived. And
So while you're in your early days, you always played for Nelson United, didn't you? You didn't play for any other club?
No.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
And so how did that promotion into National League come about for you? And you mentioned Fallon being in the picture.
Yeah.
Did
Fallon came mid-season.
Right.
75. Yeah. That's right. I wasn't in the side, but the team was near the top of the table. Wellington Diamond United were in there, and whoever won the league was going to National League. It came down to a game at Rutherford Park between Diamonds and us, and I was on the bench. Fallon threw me on at half-time because someone was injured at right back, Johnny Marr, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
Ball came floating over. I thought, I've got to clear this with a big guy charging at my back, going to bury me. So I thought I'd head the ball over the goalpost to safety, headed it straight in the net.
Bugger.
What an introduction. What an introduction.
Yeah, we ended up losing 3-1, and any possibility of winning the Central League that year, Wellington Diamond won it and they went up. So I was a bit gutted, went away and hid for a couple of weeks. Then decided to train really hard over the summer and try and get in the side.
76, it all happened, didn't
76, it was all happening. I was going well. Pre-season games, I was going really well. Then Fallon signed Johnny Anoka from Wainuiomata. He was the current New Zealand under-21 centre-back. And he brought him to replace me because he didn't think I'd stand up to it. And I saw that was happening. So I dug deep, worked really hard.
That's when you started kicking people at training.
Yeah, I did. You're not having my spot, son.
That's how I learned it. With him.
Right.
Yeah. So 76. Played every game. I got Player of the Year that year. We got promoted.
Oh, fantastic. So, but my memory of Johnny Anoka was in the midfield when I used to watch him. So,
he'd play about somewhere.
Would he? Right.
Left fullback he played about.
Yeah.
Right.
And that year he played, he was forced to play left back because he couldn't have my spot.
Yeah.
And then he did play in midfield. He played in midfield in the Chatham Cup winning side.
Right.
But yeah.
So tell us about, obviously 76, good season for you guys, and then 77 was when you won it. So tell us about some of the players and that journey.
Who do you want to know about?
Well, not in description, but just some names that some people will remember.
Yeah.
And that's
Creswell.
Who?
Kenny Creswell.
Kenny Creswell, yeah. Well, we had a very young
Pete
side.
Simonson.
We had some
It's a young team.
Senior players. Julius Beck was a senior player in the side. Julius Beck played for New Zealand. He's scored a lot of goals. If you look up the Hungarian history, Fallon convinced him to play one more year, and he played him as sweeper behind me. He was supposed to guide me around. He taught me the game, did whatever he told me to do. We had other younger players like Kenny Creswell, Simo, Keith Mackay, buzzer in midfield. Eric Brown was part of that side, but he was a fringe player.
Jamesy, Davey Brydon.
Yeah, David Brydon.
So who was up front? Eric James.
Dave Powell up front, Chatham Cup winning side, right?
Yes.
You want to run through it?
Well, we can do the lineup, yeah.
Okay. Could you pick the lineup?
Yeah.
You could.
Keith Barrett in goal.
Correct. Right back.
Davey Brydon.
DB. Left back.
Colin Chisholm.
Yeah. Out of the blue. Colin Chisholm, yeah. Centre back.
You.
And the boss.
Oh, Fallon. Of course.
Midfield.
Smokey. Buzzer.
And Charlie Ewer.
Animal.
Up front.
Powdrill.
James.
Creswell.
Yeah.
And on the bench, Brownie.
No, on the bench.
Waltz.
Simo.
Oh, he was too.
Simo didn't start that game.
Oh, okay.
He was pretty miffed too.
Yeah, he would be. He wouldn't be happy.
But Simo came on, and Eric Brown was an unused sub. That was basically it.
Wow.
But was Gary Walton on the bench? No. So you only had the two subs at the Chatem Cup final in Auckland.
Yeah.
Amazing. So that would have been certainly one of your highlights of your career, was that game? Have to be. Winning the Chatham Cup.
Yeah, it is. Didn't seem so at the time. And even for a few years after, it didn't seem that special. But as time goes on, and no other teams in Nelson's come close to emulating that.
Yeah.
The enormity of what happened, sinks in.
Yes.
What we did was, out of this world. And, all the players in that team were lucky enough to share that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So that you carried on with National League till when?
A long time.
Yeah.
Through a lot of coaches. Fallon left after 77.
He disappeared and went to Gisborne there for. Did you have what? 2 or 3
he went
years?
to Hamilton.
Yeah.
Doug Moore came in for a couple of years. I played for Doug for a year, and then I went to Australia, not to play football, just a young person's trip. Shane and I bought a panel van in Sydney and drove all the way across to Perth. And it was pre-season, so I went and tried out for a few teams and said, look, I need a job. Played for Floreat Athena, who got me a job straight away.
Oh, wow.
Had a couple of exciting seasons there before I came back home. When I came back home, Fallon had moved on to Gisborne, got Gisborne promoted back to National League and asked me to go up there, which I did, and had another couple of seasons up there before I came back to Nelson. Had a number of coaches, Phil Dando, Barry Simmons, Stuart Smith. We got relegated and we're in Central League when I came back from Gisborne. Stuart Smith was the coach. We got promoted.
Then you got into coaching.
I got into coaching accidentally. I was a senior player with Trevor Thompson. Trevor was coaching and I was assisting him as a player assistant, and we got promoted. We won the Central League and got promoted. And then Warwick Heel asked me if I'd take on the National League coaching job, which was, I don't know whether it's arrogance or self-confidence or whatever, but I said, yeah, I'll give it a crack. And actually, I'm pretty proud of the couple of seasons I had coaching a National League side. We didn't look like we were ever going to get relegated. I think we finished mid-table a couple of times, 2 years running. We operated on a formula of mainly local guys and a couple of imports. We brought in Robert Ironside and Scott Ollerenshaw.
Yeah, I remember Scott Ollerenshaw. What a player he was.
Yeah, Ollie was a fantastic player. Not so much Robert Ironside. He didn't do that well for us. And, one of the first times I had to sack a player was to tell Robert that you may as well stay in Auckland, Robert, because you're doing no good for us. And then the second year, Ollie brought Manus Lamond with him. Very tricky Manus Islander that did really well in Australia on hard pitches. Didn't do so well here, did he, Paul?
I don't think I played with him that year, but I remember the lad.
Wet grounds on firm surfaces, very quick, like back from Surrey.
Yeah, right.
That sort of player.
Yeah.
And then I had a spell out of the game, and then I went to Australia and coached on the Gold Coast.
Okay, and that was just local division, was it? Local?
Gold Coast Premier League, reasonable standard.
Yeah.
There'd been a few changes a year or two before I got there. They'd gone from an 8-team league to a 12-team league. And I ended up coaching a side called Runaway Bay, which at that stage were the whipping boys of the league. They were one of the lower sides, but some very nice people and underrated players there. First year coaching them, I got them into the top four. As you know, in Australia, they're very much about top four and semi-finals and having a grand final.
Yes.
It seems to be more important than even winning the league.
Yes.
So, the first year with them, I got them into fourth place, got them into the finals. They're pretty chuffed with that. The following 2 years, I didn't win the league, but finished second and third and won the grand final both those years.
So, wow.
But then I moved on to Southport, which was a well-established older club. Had a couple of years there where couldn't quite crack league, but we always made it to the finals, but didn't win a grand final. Then I had a year at Palm Beach, another top club on the Gold Coast.
It's not a bad environment.
I played over there actually with when Slotsy was at Runaway Bay, and the standard was good. And it was quite funny because the Runaway Bay team was basically predominantly Kiwis and Australians.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Southport were predominantly Poms. And then you had the teams like Surfers Paradise were predominantly Italians. And then you had
the Croatian side, which
was it Narang or someone like that?
It was Narang, but also what is now the Gold Coast Knights was and they're playing in the MPL, which is a top
state league,
and looking to go to a B League if there's ever a B League. They were the sort of club that they performed poorly one year and then they'd whip out the checkbook and suddenly they've got these ex-A League players, which they did. When I was at Southport, they did just that, and they didn't lose a game all season. They were that good. We took points off them but could never beat them.
And then eventually making your way back to Nelson, is that right?
I came back and I got involved in the Phil Whitley years at Richmond. He was actually paying me to run a junior academy out there. Didn't always get paid, and eventually fell out with him because I didn't get paid.
Yeah.
Then I went over to Suburbs, took the Suburbs first division side, while John and Brendan took the mainland side.
Yeah.
The understanding I had was that I would be taking over from when they finished. The only problem is that year they won the league and decided to do an extra year. So I wait an extra year to take over, and we had a couple of seasons there.
Yeah, and you two teamed up, didn't you, to run it for how many seasons?
Well, as a couple, then I think you got sacked, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Well, I think we both got sacked.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Well, no, we had a few issues with referees throughout the year, and there was a few complaints about us. But they had this big plan, didn't they? Of Joe Green, remember him?
Yeah.
They're bringing this Joe Green in from Richmond. I think Richmond bought him out.
I remember Biggsy coaching, and Joe Green was in that Richmond side.
Mm.
Oh, he might have been. Yeah. Well, anyway, I think
Ben Wright.
Then Suburbs got him to come to, then got him to come to Suburbs. And with Ben Wright, I think we got pushed sideways. Was it like that?
Something like that.
Yeah. We won't go into detail.
We fell out of favour.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Our time was done.
But good team, good coaching team together, you two?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a really good coach.
Yes.
Really is.
Yeah.
He's got to smooth off the rough edges, because he comes across as like an old style English coach, yelling and swearing and cursing at the players. But
just trying to get the message through, John. That's all.
Technically, he's a very good coach.
Yes, but also in latter years, because I've managed with this man here, that had kind of disappeared, and especially with the younger players, Paul was very, very good. And it's a bit, I've never been coached by you, Slotsy, so I don't know, but I know with Paul and I know with Biggsy, they had this ability to pull a player aside and be able to build up a relationship, if you like, and just whisper in their ear about certain things, get the best out of the players.
You've got to get the players to like you.
If the players don't like you, you're on a loser. You just
you're not going to succeed.
When they talk about an English Premier League coach losing the dressing room, that's exactly what's happened. They don't want to play for him anymore.
No.
But
when we were there, we were lucky because we had like some the Suburbs were like semi-years, real good people.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. If you got good people, and then we used to bring we had Gagami and Jerry Donga and those boys. Yeah. We had that X factor. So there was always goals in us.
I think we came second both the years.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
we couldn't quite
win it. Could we?
Couldn't quite get ahead of Cash Tech, and they've gone on and shown that they're probably 10 years ahead of where Suburbs are at the moment.
Because player depth.
Yeah.
And then one way or another onto the Richmond Foxes. So how did that come about? And
that's another story.
And how's the season going so far?
I got into the Foxes accidentally as well, because my daughter had started playing football, and I hadn't taken a lot of notice, to be honest. And one day she came home and said, "Hey, Dad, the girls haven't got a coach, and they're all a bit despondent. They're all going to quit if can't find a coach. Will you come and coach us?" And I thought, women's football.
We can't have that.
Women's football. Never considered that, but I'd coached Fox, my boy, from when he was 6 to 16. Could I turn around to my daughter and say, "No, I'm not going to"?
Yeah, that's right.
So I agreed to go along and help them. And at first I thought I could turn them into world beaters, but I quickly forgot about that, and we got down to the simplicity of the game, which is mainly having fun, playing the best you can possibly play, and whatever happens, happens. And I actually really enjoyed the first year. It was a 6-team league. I think there was the 2 colleges, FC, the Swans from Richmond, poor Cougars and us. We didn't finish bottom, but we didn't set the league light. Then at the end of that season, 2 or 3 girls drifted off, and some new girls arrived. Gradually, every year, team got better and better. I don't do any of the organisation around the girls. They organise themselves. Initially, it was Holly that did all the organisation, and they have a Facebook page where they communicate with each other. I just turn up and put on a good session, meaningful session, and I get a text on Saturday morning saying, here's a list of players that are available, and I organise them into a team, and that's it. So I don't get any of the stuff that I don't need to know about.
Yeah, right. And obviously that team's improved. I mean, I can't remember what the result was last year, but
you
won the league last year.
You've won it every year, haven't you?
This will be the 6th year on a trot if we win it this year.
Yeah.
Pretty good effort.
Yeah.
And what do you think that is, Slotsy? You've seen the improvement. Obviously, players is one thing, but it can't be just players. It must be overall technique, skill, shape.
We don't recruit players as such.
Yes.
Players just come to us. I know when Mary Ann came to us, I coached Mary Ann when she was quite young. She was one of the local girls that used to come and play in my boys' side. And she had been off to uni, been to Dunedin for a few years. And Holly got an email from Mary Ann saying, I've been advised that, the Richmond Foxes is a team for me, and Holly didn't know who Mary Ann was and was going to palm her off on some other team until I realised that it was Mary Ann, and we signed her, and just that's what happens every year. And
but you've seen the overall skill level increase, or the way that you play.
We concentrate on really basic stuff. You can get too complicated with football. I mean, we only train one night a week. There's a limit to how much you can do, to how much you can improve players. Just simple stuff, control of the ball, passing of the ball, dribbling the ball, and basic formations. There are players like Marianne and Michaela and Megan that have played football for a number of years. They understand the game, but we also have, Brendan Crichton's daughter turned up this year, Chloe. She's never played football. She grew up in a football household. And she's okay. And we fit her into the side. So we get all sorts, not just the good players.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh, well, that's great, mate, and glad that the season's going well so far. You're on the charge, and it's going to be a close race with the Diamonds. So,
I don't think it'll be close.
It's confidence.
Got to be confident.
We play the Diamonds on the last day of the season,
right?
Hopefully, we'll be over the hill and far away by then.
Right.
So, unless we fall to the Cougars like we did the very first year, twice.
Oh, well, look, it's been fantastic having you in, Slotsy. A lot of people will know who you are, but also part of this podcast is a lot of people have moved to the Richmond that love their football that perhaps aren't aware of some of the early days of the 70s and the 80s and the National League, and are very interested in that history. And of course, the ones that do know your fond memories of those days. And
not all fond memories.
No.
But you must admit, women there in the late 70s and the mid 80s at Rutherford Park, 1,500 people there.
Yeah, look,
big crowd.
Bit of a difference, 1,500, 15,000.
Well,
but they were
1,000 to 1,500.
But they were big crowds. They were
good crowds.
Yes.
The one thing I will say about those days compared to now is that going out to play for Nelson United in those days, I felt like the whole football community and the town was behind us. That we were one.
Yes.
It's not quite the case now. I think, as I was saying to you before we went to air, I think everyone, all the football people in Nelson should have a big powwow, leave all their baggage to one side, all their petty differences and jealousies, and agree to support our top teams, top men's side and the top women's side.
And somehow put a structure in place to be able to feed that, and not, but also the ability for players to go back to their clubs if they don't quite make the side. I guess
that's true. I think we should maybe create a completely new entity above all the local clubs. Call it a name like the A-League teams, like Phoenix or Brisbane Roar, or call it the Nelson Victory, and have trials every January for 2 or 3 weeks. Then they select a squad of 20 players. Everyone else goes back to their own clubs. You retain your club identity, but everyone's got an independent team in the town that we can all get behind.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Not everyone will agree with that, and I'm sure.
Oh no, that's
but you've seen a lot in football, and it's great to get that feedback from the experience. So we really appreciate your time, mate. It's been fantastic having you in here. All the best of luck with, I believe you're going, having some time off in Oz and around the South Island.
Yeah, it's not retirement, but it's just a change of scene for a little while. I'm sure I'll be back.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Cheers, Bridie.
No worries.
Again. And who you got this week? It's the Suburbs Seals. So
tough game.
That's at Saxton, isn't it?
Number 2.
All right. Well, all the best of luck with that, mate. Yeah. All right. Thanks very much for listening.
No worries.
And we'll speak to you again next week.
What's on, where and when?
It's the Talk of Nelson.
Talk Nelson Radio.